Ever find yourself at a crossroads, kind of wondering, who am I really? Or maybe, what's this all about? What's my purpose?
It's a universal thing, isn't it? That need to understand ourselves, our place in the grand scheme of things.
Totally. And today, we're diving deep into that very human experience through this personal essay. It's called Ness, that's I or Self, written back in 1990 by, I think he was a young man at the time, Joseph Chen. So we've got his words, and get this, also his teacher's commentary. Two perspectives, one big journey inward.
It's really fascinating, though, because even though this was written decades ago,
Hmm.
the stuff Joseph's wrestling with, it still resonates today, like it could have been written yesterday.
Right. Timeless. And speaking of timeless, it starts off with Joseph talking about this vivid childhood dream. He's falling downstairs in the dark. Falling dreams always freak me out a little.
Yeah, dreams, they can be powerful, like a window into our subconscious, right? Psychologically speaking, falling often connects to insecurity, maybe fear of losing control, vulnerability, that kind of thing. Whoa, getting kind of deep already.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is Joseph later talks about how he went from being a shy kid to like way more outgoing. Makes you wonder if that dream, those falling stairs, maybe it's him being kind of scared of this new unknown version of himself.
Could be. I mean, it makes sense, right? Growth often comes with some instability. You have to let go of the old you to make space for, well, whoever you're becoming.
And Joseph, he really dives headfirst into the big questions, like why are we here? And what does it even mean to really live a life? He even talks about looking up at the stars and feeling small, but also like he's part of something much bigger. It's a feeling lots of philosophers and spiritual people have talked about for ages, like this awe, but also this terror sometimes, realizing that we're just a tiny piece of a huge puzzle.
It's like he's putting words to this feeling we've all had, but maybe didn't know how to describe. And you really feel it in his writing, this like deep yearning for his life to actually mean something, more than just, well, existing.
Totally. That yearning to find meaning and purpose, it's a huge motivator, honestly. It's what makes us want to create, to
Yeah.
connect with others, to leave some kind of mark on the world?
Yeah, like our own internal engine pushing us to do more, be more, but it's not always easy, right? Joseph even talks about this tension between wanting inner truth and like the pressure to achieve things to be successful in the eyes of the world.
Yeah, it's a real dilemma, isn't it? Trying to balance what we want deep down with what everyone else expects. And it's cool how his teacher, they totally picked up on that.
Right, like they were reading his mind a little.
Well, they actually praise him for recognizing that struggle so young. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people, they never even stop to question that stuff, about what makes a successful life.
True. We get so caught up in just like going through the motions, but then Joseph brings up this idea of legacy, and it almost feels like a turning point in the essay. You know what I mean? He seems comforted by this idea of leaving something behind, whether it's art or teaching others or even just living a life that inspires people. It seems really important to him.
I love that you pick up on that it's a turning point. It's like he's wrestling with this idea, right? That
Hmm.
we're only here for so long, but maybe what we do can echo out even after we're gone.
It's like a whole ripple effect thing. Even something small, a kind word, a moment where you inspire someone, it can have this huge impact, even if you never get to see it.
Exactly. And it ties back to that feeling he talked about before, looking up at the stars and the ocean. He might feel small compared to all that, but he's still part of this massive interconnected thing.
Right. It's like he's saying, hey, I'm just one person, but I matter. Which is honestly such a powerful message for everyone listening, right? You don't have to be famous or super rich to leave the world a little better than you found it.
100%. And what I find interesting is he doesn't actually land on one answer about legacy. He's open to different ways it could look, which I think is really mature.
And his teacher actually points that out too. They're like, good for you for being okay with uncertainty. They really emphasize that it's important to be open to change, to always be learning and evolving in how we see ourselves in the world. It's like they're both saying, look, life isn't about having it all figured out, like it's okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah, totally. And that's actually what makes Joseph's essay so relatable, I think.
Yeah.
It's honest about the fact that figuring yourself out, it's a journey. It never really ends.
We're all works in progress, right? Always
Yeah.
learning, always changing. And maybe, just maybe, being okay with that, with not knowing everything, maybe that's the real superpower.
I think you're onto something. There's a freedom in letting go of that need to have all the answers?
Yeah.
You can be more curious, more open to new ideas, and honestly, probably a little kinder to yourself and everyone else along the way.
Instead of fearing the unknown, You run towards it. You're excited by what you might discover.
Exactly. And even after all these years, Joseph's essay, it reminds us of that. It's not a how-to guide. It's more like he's inviting us along on his journey to
Yeah.
keep asking the big questions, to never stop trying to figure out who we are and what it all means.
And sometimes just asking those questions, it can change everything. So as we kind of wrap up our own little deep dive here, what's sticking with you? What are you taking away from Joseph's story?
For me, it's that reminder that this whole self-discovery thing, it's not a straight line.
Hmm.
You know, those anxieties, those big questions, they might pop up again and again throughout your life.
Yeah.
And that's normal. It's part of being human.
Perfectly said. And hey, maybe if we can face those moments with a little curiosity, a little less judgment, we'll find ourselves exactly where we need to be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, this journey's always better with good company.